Why Nano budget, Simone?
Because you can and you have to. I think it's two forces colliding, right? It's the economy as it is, and people just don't have the money, whether they're independent producers or filmmakers like all of us, or the big studios. And the ability to create quality, the image quality you can produce with a 5D or a 7D, is way more than anything else you could have produced in that budgetary realm, just 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It's completely changed everything. So I think that's the simple answer. Because you can and you have to.
I think, I used to be working in the studio system where we spend $30 million on a marketing budget just for a feature film that maybe costs $45 to $50 million or upwards of $100 million. Now with the social media at our fingertips, you can all of the internet and everything at your fingertips to get your work out there. I've been told by several studio executives who used to go to film festivals all the time, just from one film festival to the next, looking for young talent, looking for people who might have something that they could conscript and use as an idea or use them as the next big director. They don't go to film festivals anymore. They're looking online for material. They comb the internet every single day, the production executives, looking for material. And that's material that you can put up there and have somebody look for and see.
What everybody said, the thing I would add is that right now the rules are still being rewritten for this type of digital production. It's fairly new in the overall timeline of film and entertainment. And what's great about it is the democratization, that it's so accessible to everyone. And there's always the forces of the market, like before this kind of thing happened, you had to go through very specific channels to what I would call maybe the gatekeepers, the studios or the television networks, etc. And now, at least temporarily, until they figure out how to corral everything again, we have an opportunity to write some new rules of the way that, and what Deanna is saying about, studios looking on the internet and stuff. That would be great if that continues to happen. So right now is actually a critical time. If you can get your creativity out there, it's kind of like, it's open season. People are still figuring it out. And hopefully, because the internet is so various and open, relatively, it'll continue to be that way as long as the people on our level are inspired to do the work and not necessarily try to get rich quick.
And I get more of a chance to do experimenting. I don't have to be under quite as much pressure to get it on this one shot and stay within budget and things like that. And doing a lot of small budget or no budget gigs gives me a lot more time to try out new things and see what I can do with little money. And when I do get large gigs, I can kind of be the nice guy and offer them less money than it would take or than they expect it would take. So that's one plus side on the composing side of it.
Thank you. Sorry about the audio. So I'm representing a crew, what we refer to as below the line position, as cameraman, cinematographer. And to the question, why nano budget? From my point of view, basically sitting at a table with a bunch of producers and directors, my first answer would be because they say so. For example, the film that I worked on with Mr. Coppola and Mr. Silver, the edict came down before production began. Not a single frame of film will be shot on this picture, and we will be shooting all digital. Thumbs up by me, right? This was at a time when George Lucas produced and directed, I believe, Star Wars Episode 1 on a Sony F900 camera, which at the time was a roughly you know, $80,000 to $100,000 camera, not including the lenses provided by Panavision, at another couple $100,000. What we're seeing now is you can obtain the same image quality that George Lucas obtained on Star Wars Episode 1 with a camera system, including lenses, that doesn't cost, you know, $200,000 or $250,000, but rather costs $15,000. Canon just made a big announcement, and they're going to make another big announcement on November 4th, I believe it is. Sama mentioned the Canon 5D and 7D. I don't know if you're familiar with those. These are what they refer to as DSLRs or HDSLRs, digital single lens reflex cameras that are capable of shooting 1080p, 24 frames per second high def video. The 7D, the camera body is $1,500. The 5D, which is next step up, is $2,500. They just announced the Canon 1DX, which the camera body is under $7,000, and the image quality will rival that of the camera system I'm talking about that they use on Star Wars Episode 1. So you can see what Nick referred to as the democratization of the filmmaking process in the digital world, not just in the sense of all the equipment is becoming cheaper and more available. And you know, we're all going to be in production momentarily with cameras that cost even a fraction of that, which are broadcast quality cameras. You know, Mr. Coppola shoots his reality shows with these cameras, broadcast on Reel's channel and YouTube, which I understand is both net and broadcast. So you see all these prices coming down and availability going up, and
$1 million, and I was told by actually Tommy Lynch I should kiss the ground for even getting the $100,000 back. Get rid of those people taking all the money. You know, make it for very little money, control it, own it, because you can do that now. So first of all, do it so you can get rid of those. When you start spending more money, a lot of money, and borrowing money, and having to go to places to make pre-sales, then you lose control. You're not going to make any money, okay? I mean, somebody else is going to make all the money. The second thing is, you guys, like Deanna was saying, it has to be good. If people need to want to see it. The way you can make it good is by doing it a lot. You know, in the old days, I always say this, but you know, there's a similarity between the 1913 and 14 period where people were experimenting with the whole concept of film, and now in the digital arena. And when you have access to this stuff, they were making tons of little movies, tons of them. And they were able to hone their craft and their editing and get ideas. Well, you can do that now. That's what this festival is about, with your cell phones, with little handhelds. And every day, I mean, Giuseppe Verdi, the great opera composer, would write a fugue every morning just to kind of keep his chops honed. Go out and shoot like one shot, you know, with the way you see things. Hone your craft. Bring it to the table when you do something a little bigger. You need to find who you are, your brand, and we'll get into later how you become an entrepreneur with that. Okay, the next step. Even though we're all in this whole new arena, this brave new world, we can never forget about old school, where it all came from, and how you really need to blend the two. And I want to talk about that. All of us up here have done old school filmmaking, regardless of the budgets. But doing your shot list, slating, having a separate sound person, even though you can't always do that on a Nano budget, but you can learn from it. And I want to just go down the table about, why old school? Why understand that? Why not, when you can, try it? Because you can learn from it. And you can bring that to the table. So let's go again, Alan. Old school, why you shouldn't forget it when going into new school.
Well, from the point of view, somebody who's 95% of what I've worked on are narrative features. Obviously different perspectives attached to documentaries and shorts. And what I learned, I'm not going to say 10 years ago, but certainly 5 or 6 years ago, or there's a picture on which I'm credited as a producer. They shot it in Philadelphia, I never went there. But nonetheless, I told them how to do it long distance. They had a $3 million budget when the director called me and said, we can't seem to raise more than $250. I said, shoot it for that. And they did. And I haven't seen the second cut. It premieres next, actually I think it might conflict with the award show here. I believe it's Saturday at the Hollywood Black Film Festival. And it is a black movie. But I never went to Philadelphia, so they didn't really know about me until they met me afterwards. That's a joke. Anyhow, I've been saying that for a while. How much money do you have? Where is your script? And if I think it's possible, I say to people, why don't you just shoot it for what you have, as opposed to spending money doing business plans, all the other stuff that I think, no, there are fewer people that have that. If you can make a feature film for 20,000 bucks, hopefully you can manage to scrape that together. And when you do, I think when you make a feature film, there are two prerequisites. One, the script. It has to be better than good, for the second reason I'm going to address. And if it's not better than good, get another one. And after you have a script that you like, see if you can make it for X amount of dollars, and then hold to that. I used to say to directors who handed me scripts and wanted my opinion on whether it could be made for a price, well, there's no train crashes, are there? And about 15 years ago, I went home and on page 10 there was a train crash. The director told me no. But I called him, and it was clear we didn't need a train crash anyway. It was a character comedy. Never made the movie, but didn't need the train crash. So once you have the script and it's pared down to what you need, the next step is actors. And in terms of old school, the script and the actors on any of these projects are 75% of it. I mean, no disparagement of any of the technicians that are going to bring high quality and a lot of talent. But it's not about the image and it's not about the sound. It's about the script and the performers. That's what gets the movie out there. Because he knows it's true. So, old school, you need a minimum of people to help you shoot. Although, quite frankly, if you wanted to, you could shoot it, record the sound, edit it, do the props, wardrobe, makeup, everything yourself if you really want to. But what the script will get you is actors. And aim as high as you can for that. The crafting would not have gotten the release it got without the actors that we got. And there are members of the Screen Actors Guild working for $100 a day for 8 hours. If that's more than half your budget, it's still worth it. So from those two perspectives, remembering that the screenplay, more than ever, at this budget level is key, because it gives you the blueprint, a makeable blueprint. You're not building a mansion, you're building a nice little home. And two, it gets you the actors, because if you don't have them, it doesn't matter how much money you have. I'm sure you all know that a low-budget film with great acting has a lot of possibilities. Whatever the budget is, bad performance, you're done. It's over.
Established protocols that have come about because they work. And why throw out a system that works? You know, people have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears figuring out, okay, what's the best way? If we have 8 pages of dialogue, and you guys are going to come up against this starting tonight or whenever you start shooting. We've got 8 pages of dialogue and we've got 2.5 hours to shoot. If you're not familiar with the math of the filmmaking process, that ain't a lot of time. So you want to take what you can and learn from what's come before, just as if you're a student of art history or a student of film history. You take what's worked in the past and you put your spin on it. And it reflects in practical methods of working on set that'll get you those 8 pages shot in 2.5 hours, and then you look like the hero, and then you actually get hired to work again. The other thing, I have a lot of notes, but we don't have a lot of time. The other thing I was going to say is, there's a very famous quote by someone who I admire, a professional cinematographer, Alan Davio, who's shot a lot of very big pictures, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, et cetera, et cetera. He's got a very famous quote: if you want to learn cinematography, just look at film history and look at 3 films: Citizen Kane, The Last Emperor, and a film that a lot of people are very familiar with, by Mr. Coppola's uncle, Francis Ford. So according to Mr. Davio, you can learn everything about cinematography by watching these 3 films in particular and gleaning what you can from them. But I would take it a step further and work all the contacts, and this goes for a lot of in this business, but work all the contacts you have, people who have practical experience on set and doing what we do, and learn from them and respect that process of, you know, a pseudo apprenticeship, and take what you can from them that works for you, and then push it in your new direction. But you have to have a place to start from, and literally
Shooting every day. The tremendous advantage with the Nano budget is you can shoot it 7 days straight, or I have shot 9 days over 2 months. I have a lead actor who's very comfortable with that. She's happy to show up whenever. She has an occasional other audition or event, and she went out of town to a family reunion. Once I accommodated that, she would do anything I want. And I think the key in terms of the crew is to accommodate them as much as you can. You're asking them to work for almost nothing or very little. Part of the reason I have been able to shoot more than 2 days is my DP goes and does other gigs. And he tells me what days he's available or what part days that he's available, and it's worked out real well because he's very enthusiastic. And that's going to be now the keynote of what I'm going to tell you. It's a lot better to have 2 really enthusiastic crew people, which is what I've basically had, than 20 who would rather be somewhere else. That's the key to it with regards to actors. And I've done a lot of pictures, and I just got my 7th email from an actor telling me what a great time he had, and how anytime I do anything again, he's happy to show up. And I paid the man $100, but nonetheless, and he's not a SAG actor, so he's really happy to get the $100. But most of my other emails have been from SAG members. I had a guy who was a regular on CSI who worked for me for 2 days, and he sent me 2 emails saying the same thing. Had a great time. And the way you have people have a great time is to pay attention to them. And remember, you're not just directing the actors, you're directing the crew, and you're motivating them too, by letting them participate, make suggestions, listening to what they say, and really being flexible. It's really not about getting a specific shot. I've used shot lists 2 days when I had a lot of work and I knew to have a key. I've got about half the shots on my list. I knew I didn't need more than half. Best example I can give, Friday, I had 3 junkyard dogs barking. I had 3 actors. I was trying to piece together a performance. I had 3 singles to get. I looked at the DP, he looked at me. We'd done 2 against 1, 1 against 2, 3 shots. I had great performance visually. So I don't need these singles. He said, no, I don't think so. So, you know, you've got to be flexible. You need to have a plan as a director. But really what you need to do, and I'll throw this out there, because whenever people ask me what a director does, I try to keep it really simple. A director tells the actors where they are. And I don't mean North Spring Street, downtown Los Angeles. Where are we in this narrative? Because it's hard when you're not shooting continuity for everybody to keep it straight. I had a day where I basically said, give me 5 minutes, because I don't know where I am. And I went, a lot more effective for me to figure that out and then be able to tell people. As a director, for both the cast and the crew, because especially my DP who goes and does other things, I sort of have to take 2 minutes at the beginning of the day, take them through every scene, tell them where the scene is in the script. And once I did that, we were ready. Once I did that with, I don't need to do it with my lead actor. She knows. I'm so much on the same page with her. She tells me, you want another take, and you want me to do this? And I say, yeah, exactly. So knowing what you need for your movie and being able to communicate it to the crew and to the cast is what makes nano budget possible? Because, yeah, the technology is there to help you. One last thing I want to say.
You're moving into other territory.
Okay, I'll let that get covered about this particular thing. All of these elements that come together for you, in terms of what Christopher said with regards to respect, lay the groundwork early and don't deviate from it. Remember, it's all good. Don't let a momentary problem so overwhelm you that you lose your temper or do something that you...
Whether it's in development all the way to marketing, when you have less money, it's more valuable to have fewer people but more time. That's the truth, and that's true in production and it's true in post-production. The work is going to be better. Now, here's the thing. You could have one person do everything in post, or you could have like 6. And I'm not advocating to have one person do it all. But if you are that guy who is the one person who ends up having to do it all, I guarantee you'll be one of the greatest periods of growth in your professional life. And it's possible now, right? It's possible because we have all of this technology that's integrated and accessible. You could edit it all in Final Cut or Premiere or Avid, and then you could do your sound mixing in the same computer, and you could do your color correction, and you could do your graphics. You could do it all. And I would say if you have more time, you can do that. But if you do it from a place of knowledge. Take the time to watch a whole bunch of tutorials and then figure it out. But if we're talking about a small budget though, if it's up to me, if I'm guiding the process, I would say you want to have an assistant editor, right?
For it. Obviously, you want to get them on board as soon as you possibly can. Does everyone know about Google Sites? Everyone heard about Google Sites? Free, okay? You can build a website for free and host it for free on Google Sites. You need a website for your film? Google Sites, it's free, okay? Facebook, free. Make a Facebook page for your, you should, as a filmmaker, if you want to be a filmmaker, you should have your own fan page as a filmmaker. And you should start posting everything you do creative, whether it's a painting or a video you shoot or a little TV show. Just start posting it up there. Get your followers, you know. You can be your own crew in that sense. But you should start earlier. Melissa, who I'm coaching, is doing a wonderful little piece on the wetlands, where a lot of people are living out there. I mean, full time. And there are a lot of bloggers online who are looking for material. You know, invite them out to what you're doing. Ask them to come out and write a story. Tell them how cool it is, and get somebody, one of the online newspapers, you know, to come out and write a story on what you're doing. Tie in be your own PR agent. You know, tie in what you're doing to what's out there, so you get the word out. It's not just your video, but maybe there's a story attached to it that you can get somebody to write about.
If you feel me there, tough times. But also, I did not know that the director wore the tie as a sign of respect for his crew. So thank you for teaching me that. I always thought it was so the director looked like the good cop, and he could point to the producer and say, "You got to talk to that guy. You want more money." That's what I thought, because I'm always trying to get. So crewing up, you know, I kind of have a foot in both worlds, the nano budget, but also, you know, the bigger budget union production. So I'm informed by both worlds. I would say,
go ahead. Don't worry about it.
Nano budget discussion. As the camera person, you need to have a very, very close connection and working relationship, both with your director from an artistic point of view. You know, the cameraman or camera person is there to create a look and a tone and a feel that captures what the director and also the writer are really going for thematically, right? So you try to echo those themes in a visual sense. So what does that mean? That's reflected in your lighting, the choice of how you frame your shots, how you block your scenes, where people are in relationship to each other in the shot, etc. You also need a great working relationship with a production designer, and that's someone who can really help bring that vision together with choices in your color palette. Okay, the director says, "I see everything in blues and greens, and I don't want to see any red until we see this famous." Here you go, famous example. I believe it was Schindler's List. Spielberg with the girl, black and white film, except for the girl with the red dress that you track. Considerations like that you work out with a production designer if you're lucky enough to have one, and your director. And of course also, you have to have a great working relationship with your producer from a practical point of view. Okay, what do you need to make this shot or this scene happen? How are we going to capture what we want? What equipment do you need? And I got to coordinate getting that for you, so you got to tell me what you want. But with regards to producing your films for this festival specifically, and then taking that out from, hopefully you pursue filmmaking from here. I would encourage you to, get your hands on a little bit of everything, and really kind of see what you're comfortable doing, and what your intuition tells you to do. But also, I've been told by producers, look, I don't want to know. I don't want to know nuts and bolts of you need this and you need that, and blah, blah, blah. Just tell me, give me a list and boom, I'll make it happen. I think it's good to know. I think it's good to know, what does it mean that you need, a boom mic, but you also need 4 lavs, and you're going to be running around and doing this and that. What does it mean? Why do you need 3 cameras? What is a macro lens adapter, which is in our camera kit for this? What's a wide angle adapter going to do for you? Why does the production designer need 100 yards of black, material, et cetera, et cetera. So I would encourage you to do as much as you can and get your hands on as many of these little disciplines as possible. If nothing else, to understand, what are these people worried about on the crew? For me, as a cinematographer, essential crew would be at least 1 camera assistant and a great camera operator to make the shot happen. If the director, Mr. Coppola, has, is very well known for creating some very difficult shots to pull off, and hopefully I pull them off often. So a great camera operator and a great camera assistant.
First Academy Award for HUD, extremely simple. And that's the way it had to be because of the story. And again, you've got to back into what you do with the equipment you have. Prosumer equipment is spectacularly flexible, and you need to use its range, don't try to extend it, and do something that's appropriate to your story, whatever that may be, the best way that you can. And that's how you will get the best result with whatever the equipment is.
I'm going to shorten this by saying advice now to our mobile flick teams who are about to embark on this creative journey from each point of view. What you should be thinking about, something that they can take with them as they go off and shoot and get into the whole post thing and basically become guerrilla filmmakers. One thing just for me that I learned on my first film, it was advice I got from Dino Conti, who was the producer of 48 Hours, and I was making Dracula's Widow for Dino De Laurentiis when I was 25, right out of art school. And the advice he gave me was, as a director, sit down. There's a reason why there's a chair there, because you use a lot of energy thinking, keeping the entire continuity of the piece in your head. Take a moment, sit down. Just like Alan said, okay, let me get my bearings. Give yourself 3 minutes before you just start throwing punches into the mix. And that's what I did. I sat down in my chair. I said, okay, just give me 3 minutes. Sat down, took a moment, took a breath, and went right back into it, refreshed. So that's my advice to you. When you're working under the gun, sometimes you just have to keep moving, and I do that, but just take that pause. Okay, guys, ladies, just give me 3 minutes. Remember that, okay? Alan?
I think what you have to remember in terms of your team is if you're the director, you should be grateful every moment of your shoot that the other people are there. It's not about you imposing your will, it's about you getting their cooperation. And the best way to ensure that keeps going is to remember, it really is all good. It's a tremendous opportunity. Things may annoy you, don't let them make you scream or shout. Don't even let them make you unhappy in a visible way. Just keep going, because the process is different for every project, different for every day. Here's what I usually say to people that grind it out. I promise you this is true. The day will end, the movie will end. And if you get to the end of the day or the end of the movie without a sense of accomplishment, then you've done something wrong. But if you remember to be grateful for the opportunity throughout the course of it, I don't think you'll get to the end without that sense of accomplishment.
What I could say as an editor and also as a filmmaker, because the two are very intimately connected, a clear story is generally a good story. Beyond that, it's a matter of taste. Find the idea, make that idea foolproof, and just allow everything else to support that idea. Find the through line and allow everything else to fall away. And if you achieve that, right, when you speak with an actor, you can tell them in a sentence what their objective is in this moment. When you speak to the DP, you can tell them in a sentence what their idea is, because it's all rooted in a central organizing idea. So find that, and always aim for the simplicity of expression. I mean, every great thing that we see in our world, look at Apple, it's all about finding that simple idea. And all of the technology, everything that's under the hood is supporting that idea.
You're talking about Apple?
Yeah.
Well, they stole it. They were pirates. They stole.
All right, that's a bigger conversation.
All right. We're pirates.
Okay, I would just say quickly, B-roll, B-roll, B-roll. Give your editors something to work with. If you're doing a documentary style film and you are interviewing somebody who talks about the electrical wires that wake them up at night, make sure you cover some, shoot some electrical wires. If you're shooting a narrative and you have somebody who is, really interested in flowers, get close-ups, get hands, show visually, get your B-roll so that you can create an environment for your movie.
I want to say something about that. As an editor who deals with B-roll.
Okay.
Make sure that B-roll makes sense to your story. Like, I don't need a shot of a rock if the rock is not, interacting with anybody. Like, make sure that it's actually connected to that idea. Big idea.
Advice on that. For production, just take care of the little things. Like I was saying, take care of your crew. They're like Alan said, they're doing you a favor, and have fun. Don't get lost. Be safe. I didn't have my safety talk yesterday. Don't put a camera in the street. Sometimes people get all excited and they want a shot. They want to get the camera like, I want the bus coming right at me. Don't do that. Find a way to do it that doesn't put yourself in harm's way.
Shoot in reverse.
Have fun. Don't get too stressed out. I would say we're all friends here. You're learning as much as you're creating, and as long as you keep those things in tandem, I think you'll have a good time and you'll do some great work. And I think I'm really excited about the range of mobile flicks that we have this year. I think it's one of the stronger mixes we've seen. So, good luck.
I would say trust your instincts, and when you eliminate second guessing and doubt and wanting to do something over and over again, then you gain time and you gain actually a lot more happiness because you're trusting your initial thought and what you want to do in the first place.
One quick thing I want to remind Mr. Coppola, you're going to announce the subject for the cell phone art piece. Good. There's a famous saying that we're all just frustrated musicians. I'm included in that group. I would encourage you to think about rhythm when you're out shooting. And, you know, what does that mean? I'm a cameraman, why am I talking about rhythm? Timing, in delivery of dialogue, in motion of actors to camera, of cameras to the actor, allowing things to breathe a little bit. The piece that Christopher showed yesterday, I believe it was called I Am, about the construction worker who was electrocuted and his eyes popped out of his head and all that craziness. That was gorgeous, it was beautiful. And a lot of that was due to the rhythm of the editing and the rhythm of the movements of the actors. So find that inner frustrated musician and channel that and think about that stuff when you're shooting. Second thing I want to say real quick is something that I've learned maybe a little late in life and very hard way is ego. And not in the sense of, oh, aren't I great, but letting go of the ego that's telling you, I thought of this, it must be the right.
You know, anything goes, babe. Anything goes. You need to, you know, get permission from Nick and I a little bit. I especially me, and even Alan can tell you some things about how to get shots. I needed LAX on a film that was, 50 grand. To get LAX, this was before Homeland Security and all that, but to get LAX would cost a ton of money, and I didn't have a ton of money. But I was going to get LAX. There's just no way that was not going to happen. So I knew my brother, Mark, had to get a flight, you know, back to New York. And in this scene, he's pretending to get a flight because he's going to shack up with another woman. And his girlfriend is driving him to the airport. He's got a little yellow bag. And make it seem like he's catching a flight to Hawaii for some work, but he's really hiding, and then he'll get into a cab and go meet this other woman. So I said, well, you know, we gotta drop you off at the airport. Cameras are gonna be rolling, babe. You know, I'm gonna be behind the car shooting, gonna be radio mic'd. And so literally, we shot driving to the airport. You know, they were doing their dialogue in the car. Mark was very nervous, which I wanted, because that was his character, but because he might miss his actual flight, because I'm shooting, you know, which is perfect. Like, oh, we gotta go around one more time, one more time. One more time, we've got plenty of time. And then as we got out, you know, guards came up to me because they saw the camera and me shooting. And I said, what is your problem? This is my brother. I haven't seen him for 10 years. And he's getting on a flight. And I'm just shooting him. Because I'm not going to see him for another 10 years. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. And so we shot our scene. Now, you got to think out of the box sometimes. I got LAX. And I have to say, for my gorilla moment, I'm very proud of that. So think about that. Okay, so let's give a big round of applause to our panel. As Bruce said, or less, in your cell phone, what was her name, Nina Foch, was that? Yes. She even talks about that, how you better know how to shoot everything in one shot. Orson Welles, you know, he'd love to do this. He learned it from, you know, what was the name of the DP, Carl Freund? Well, I told him, but there was another guy, the camera operator, was it Freund? F-R-E-D. Well, we'll check. I'll talk about it later. But anyhow, the idea that if you have someone way in the background with your camera, you got a wide shot, and you have the actor just walk right up to the camera, you got a close-up in one shot. So anyhow, I give a topic that has something to do with the community, it's my little joy, because I founded PAH, so I get to do this. I've been thinking, I don't know, I've been thinking that LA is a very friendly place. It is. It's been nice. It's like I've been, invited over for dinner, I've enjoyed that, LA is a friendly place. So my topic is, come on by for a visit. Just come on by, drop by for a visit. That's I've been using that to try to get people to participate in the festival in all the classrooms. Like, well, even if you don't participate, just come on by for a visit. We're right over here, right in this lounge. But think, what does that mean to you to stop by for a little visit? Okay? That's your cell phone art topic. Come on by for a visit. All right. And on that, I'll sign off.